It's just that particular look. It's a curious title for a thumbnail, isn't it? Specifically, field watches with a domed crystal. Why in particular field watches? Well, after a few years of collecting, I have come to the conclusion that a field watch basically does it all. The legibility, the timeless appeal. A good field watch doesn't have to change design year after year. You can tell the time at a glance, and a field watch looks good, casual or with a suit. There's also a particular type of domed crystal, as demonstrated by this Omega, that isn't a field watch. But this particular type of crystal isn't that easy to find on many field watches. The gentle curve, not just any dome, but the seamless integration with the bezel, almost as if the whole thing is one seamless unit, if you know what I mean. There's domed crystals, and then there are what I would call integrated domed crystals. It may be that of all the dozens of options out there, this particular combination is something that you too have been looking for, as I have. Well, I've saved you the legwork. Now, after much deliberation and thinking and back and forward and hunting, I have come up with a short list of 2 perfect contenders. There is also a third that falls somewhere in between the 2 price-wise that I'm very tempted by. We'll look at these. What I also want to do in this video at the end, there's been some changes to how eBay now pay out when you sell something, a watch. These changes come into effect in February, and they're a little bit naughty. So I'll have a quick look at those at the conclusion of the video. Once you start looking for this particular combination, the first watch on this list, a very well-known field watch that does cover all the bases, can justifiably claim its position as probably the most popular well-known field watch, because it simply does it all and meets these criteria at a very, very good price, and it is Swiss. The Hamilton Khaki Field. My choice is the automatic, the particular aesthetic of the automatic. 42mm or 38mm. I suspect the ideal size for a lot of people will be in the middle, and that is where the Khaki King would come in. Beautiful domed crystal, slim on the wrist, 80-hour power reserve, as you will all know. Plenty available second hand. They're around £700. What's that? $800 new. Plenty around for half that price, pre-owned in good condition. I simply kept coming back to the Hamilton. Either version, probably the Khaki King, because it's got a 40mm case. It's around 11mm thick, slightly less. And it is an easy to live with wrist hugging option with a lovely looking dial. I think there's very few field watches have as an attractive dial as Hamilton have produced here. I know it's a well-trodden path, but there's a reason for that. The downsides of the Hamilton are, I believe, the anti-reflective coating is non-existent on the crystal, and so sometimes the dial is hard to see, and also the loom. The loom isn't as good as you would hope. I don't know why more watch manufacturers don't just have better loom as standard. The other price extreme, the other watch, the short list on this list that meets the criteria, is the IWC, either the Mark 18 or the Mark 20. Lovely look on wrist, easy to live with, beautiful bracelet, some innovative designs with the clasp, the bracelet release system. You do pay for that. Looks good on bracelets, looks good on leather. Perfect dimensions. 40mm case, slim on the wrist, wrist hugging. Another wrist hugger. Expensive. 10 times the price of the Hamilton pre-owned, which would be the route that I took. Pre-owned, lots available, between £2,500 £3,500. It's a lot of money, isn't it? When you can get a very, very similar wrist presence from the Hamilton and something that puts just as many smiles on the face every time you look at it. There are a couple of downsides that matter to me with the IWC, heritage or not. The loom. The numerals aren't loomed. It has, the hands are loomed, and there are loom pips, points at each quarter. Just put loom on the indices. But the IWC is, for me, it's the holy grail really of field stroke pilot's watches. Everyday pieces that can be both luxurious and casual. There is another option that falls between the two that we've already looked at, that I have seen in the flesh in a local store, and every time I walk past it, I walk back to have another look. And I've done that a few times. There's just something about it. That option, believe it or not, is our very own British Bremont Broadsword. Bremont have had a lot of controversy this last year. They've had a rebranding. Bremont, since 2002, are a little bit different, producing solid British designs, military inspired, the army, sea, aviation. They have different categories of watch. And in this one watch, the Broadsword, you're combining all of the elements that we've looked at, along with the small seconds feature, which was the design requirement for the Dirty Dozen watches during the war. So that's a very interesting option, isn't it? Bremont go to the nth degree, they always have, to provide sturdy, robust watches with Swiss movements. I believe it's an ETA movement, 2824, have been authorised by the British military to use their logos on their watches and to produce these watches to a certain standard. It also could kill two birds with one stone, because as well as the field watch aesthetic, you have the military Dirty Dozen appeal of the small seconds. It's the only one on this list that has that. The loom is very good. It's under 12mm thick and a 40mm case. These watches are just over £3,000 new. So what's that, $3,500, $3,800? But Bremont do depreciate, and there are a lot of used examples, lightly used, for less than half the retail price. So that's another option. What do you think? Have you been on a similar journey? Did you have to choose a field watch that met these particular criteria? And what did you end up going for? Is there another that I don't know about? Just a final note now about eBay. I thought it was too good to be true. We've only had 2 months, 2.5, of zero selling fees on eBay, which was brilliant. It meant you could sell something and eBay didn't take 13%, but they've got to make their money somewhere. And from February, when you make a sale, you won't immediately receive those proceeds. They'll go into a pending account, and only when your watch is marked as delivered do you then get paid 2 days later. That's fine, but the whole system will need to be more robust, particularly on the tracking side, so that everybody is involved in the transaction is clear as to when your watch was delivered. I imagine that with the billions flowing through eBay's coffers, the fact that they can hold on to it for a few more days will generate enough interest on deposit for them that they can continue to offer zero selling fees. So everybody wins in the end, because eBay has proved to be a great platform for buying and selling watches. Onward with 2025. If you watched my State of the Collection video a couple of weeks ago, you'll realise that I'm continuing to hone and consolidate the collection, moving 3, 4, 5 watches into each new piece, possibly moving up the value chain with new acquisitions. So a field watch could be the start. I'll see you in the next video.